A lot of people think that when you have a quote unquote fast metabolism, it's going to be almost impossible for you to build muscle. So let's look at this a little bit. The first thing that we need to kind of discuss is just generally speaking, how is muscle built? Okay, so muscle is built through one thing to start off. And that first thing we need to start off with is the workout. And the workout is crucial because what the workout actually does is it provides a stimulus or a reason for the muscle to grow. And without that workout, without that overall stimulus or reason for the muscle to grow, for the most part, the muscle just doesn't have any reason to actually get stronger, right? At the end of the day, if you're not stressing it and you're not giving it a reason to grow, it's going to keep those vital nutrients, keep that energy that it takes to build that muscle and not use it towards building muscle, okay? So that's a really important step one. Step two is recovery. And this is where the muscle recovers, of course, from the actual workout. So from that little bit of stress we put on, the muscle needs to, of course, have time to recover, where you're getting, proper protein and calories in, ideally getting enough sleep, getting good hydration. All of these things can be kind of culminated into this recovery protocol, okay? So you worked out, you challenged your muscle a little bit, and then now you're recovering, so you're giving your muscle a reason to get better and get stronger. And that's where the last section or the adaptation comes in. So this is where your strength, power, endurance, hypertrophy, or muscle building comes from those previous things, okay? So it kind of comes full circle. We need to stress the muscle. We then need to recover. And once you have those two things, and if you work out appropriately and recover appropriately, boom, adaptation happens and you're going to be well on your way. So when people have a quote unquote fast metabolism, what happens is they kind of mistake this idea that maybe they're a little bit skinnier, or maybe they just burn through calories a lot quicker, so they're not able to put on as much size. And the thing about it is that fast metabolism isn't really a thing, okay? Now, I will say there are some people who do burn a little more calories at rest just from their genetics. But what happens with a lot of these people, most hard gainers, I should say, is that they don't eat enough. If you talk to a lot of these people, their appetite is not the best, and they can get full pretty quickly. And at the same time, they also usually overestimate how much they're actually eating. So you may say, hey, you need to be eating 3,000 to 3,500 calories a day to get them to overall, boost your weight gain and gain some weight to gain some muscle. And they tell you, oh yeah, I eat that, no problem. And then you start looking at their food diary and you realize they had a bowl of cereal, a sandwich for lunch, and maybe a slightly bigger dinner, but they're coming in, maybe at about 2,500 calories. So they're getting way less than they need. Their appetite's not that big. Also, what happens too, two different things when it comes to movement or calories burned. One, a lot of these people fidget a lot. They move around a lot. They just feel the need to fidget or do things with their hands or tap their foot. All these different things can add nearly 500, sometimes even more calories of your calorie burn per day. That's what we call the TDEE, or the total, not TDEE, the NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically all those little movements that build up to burn more calories. NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis, we just talked about. The other one, TDEE, that's total daily energy expenditure. That's the total amount of calories you burn from your body, from your activity, etc. So sorry for the confusion there. Just got those flipped. Long story short, they burn a lot of calories fidgeting. And they might do a lot of cardio as well, okay? And this is something I've seen because a lot of these people that are hard gainers or naturally skinny, they're usually really good at doing like cross country or endurance events, cycling, etc. They just were always good at it. So maybe they keep doing it for their entire life. And when you burn 1,000 calories on a bike ride or a really long run or all these different things, it's going to be incredibly hard for you to build muscle because replacing those calories is very, very tough, okay? Because you have to eat those on top of your normal calories your body just burns naturally. Also, too, with this cardio aspect, your recovery is greatly compromised, so it's much harder to build muscle because we talked about muscles built with that recovery phase leading to adaptation. So if you are doing really long runs, that compromise your recovery, of course, that's going to compromise your muscle growth. So some tips for hard gainers, and what you could do is to first off, limit the really long cardio bouts, okay? So try to cut back on cardio the best you can. You know, it may be an activity you really, really enjoy, so that might be kind of tough to work in overall. But what a better option would be, and what I would recommend potentially, is doing some HIIT. And HIIT is high intensity interval training. And this is basically where you are either doing a circuit of different movements or maybe just a couple. And you're doing that movement for a certain amount of time, say 30 seconds, and you're doing it as hard as you can. And then what you're doing after that is just rest. So maybe you're doing 30 seconds of air squats as fast as you can, and then you're resting, okay? And this can be done numerous times to where you're doing a circuit or the interval of this, right? And that's a really potent way to get in extra volume for your muscle building, right? You can do this with squats, you can do this with push-ups, all these different exercises. So you're getting more volume, but it's not going to burn as many calories as doing a really, really long run, for example, on top of course, just getting that extra muscle building stimulus. So HIIT could be a good option. The next thing is based off of nutrition. So increasing the consumption of healthy fats. If you're not aware, things like nut butters, avocado, olive oil have a large amount of fat in them. And fat isn't inherently fattening or necessarily a bad thing, but it does have a lot of calories per gram. It actually has 9 calories per gram of the nutrient. So these things are excellent because they're very easy to eat a lot of, and you don't really get full when eating these things. So those are just a few examples. Just nuts in general would be another good one. Increasing fats, but specifically I'd recommend healthy fats in general, like some of the ones noted here in the video. Another thing you can do is to eat smaller, more frequent meals. I notice that if I'm eating more frequently throughout the day instead of just a couple larger meals, I actually get more hungrier with those smaller meals. So the more frequently you can eat, the more smaller and frequently you can eat, that's usually going to be a way to keep your appetite up so you don't get too full and sluggish. In addition to that, adding in junk food sparingly is incredibly useful, and I say sparingly because I don't want you to just go eat Pop-Tarts and pizza literally for the rest of your life, right? But these things can be a tool to eat in conjunction with your healthy food to get you up to par. So maybe you're eating like a sandwich, right? Like a sandwich, and you're having some fruit with it for dinner. So a way you could, add a little bit of junk is just have a couple cookies with it. You're still getting some good micronutrients in from your normal food, but since you need to get more calories in generally, you're going to need to get those from somewhere. And those junk foods are usually much higher in calories and not very filling. Also remember too, liquid calories are your friends. So stuff like shakes are great to have in conjunction with a normal meal. And those shakes, you can put in some of those nut butters. You can put in maybe even a little bit of that junk food, quote unquote. And then I also don't completely advocate people be drinking sports drinks all the time, but in these circumstances, if you're a hard gainer and can't get those calories in, having a Gatorade or something similar to that to boost your liquid calories. Maybe you can even add some juice as well. These are things I would not recommend for people trying to lose weight, but if you're trying to gain weight, these things are incredibly useful. Again, just use them as sparingly as possible. Trying to eat most of your food overall from those good, healthy sources, and that's going to get you the best results. So go ahead and drop a like if that gave you some good value.